Some memories refuse to fade, not because time is kind to them, but because they carved themselves too deeply into the soul to ever be erased. You know the kind I mean, the way someone once looked at you like you were both the question and the answer. The way their voice softened when they said your name. The way you didn't even notice at first that your life was bending toward theirs. Carl Jung once said something that lingers with me. Something about what a man carries forever about a woman. Not her face, not her body, but something far quieter and infinitely heavier. You've probably felt it yourself, that strange invisible thread between two people, the way a single gesture can stay with you longer than entire years. He remembers the moments she didn't know she was beautiful, the small, unguarded pieces of her, the way she stood at a window with her hair messy from the wind, biting her lip as if she was trying to solve some private riddle, the way her laugh would escape like it had been locked away for too long, and how he would do almost anything to hear it again. You see, a man may forget the dress she wore on their first date. He may forget the exact shade of her lipstick or the shoes she kicked off by the door, but he will not forget the first time he felt her absence while she was still in the room, the first time he realized she carried storms behind her eyes, and that she might never let him all the way in. It's not the grand declarations that echo through years, it's the secret ones. The times she didn't say, "I love you," but he could feel it in the way her hand lingered on his back. The nights she fell asleep mid-sentence, trusting him enough to drift off in the middle of her thought. These things, they lodge themselves somewhere deep. They turn into a kind of haunting that feels almost holy. And maybe you're listening to this now because there's someone you can't seem to forget. Maybe it's been months, years, a lifetime even. But their presence is still threaded through the quiet moments of your day, in the way you pause at a certain song, in the way a stranger's perfume makes you turn your head, in the way you still rehearse what you would say if you saw them again, though you know you probably never will. That's the thing Jung understood, even if he didn't dress it up in romance. Memory isn't fair. It's not democratic. It doesn't keep what's most logical, it keeps what's most alive. And the moments that stay are not always the ones we want. Sometimes they are the ones that cut us open the deepest. If you've ever felt that ache, if you've ever caught yourself tracing the outline of a ghost, you're not alone here. I'll tell you the rest. But before we sink deeper into this, take a moment, breathe. If this space feels like something you need, if you want to keep walking through these untold corners of the heart with me, make sure you're here the next time. Subscribe so you don't miss the words that might just feel like they're meant for you. And if you feel this already in your chest, leave a sign below. Let someone else know they're not the only one who remembers. There's a strange thing that happens when a man truly remembers a woman. It isn't about clinging to the image of her. It's about holding on to the way she made him feel in the moments she didn't even notice she was changing him. He might recall the time she sat across from him in some half-lit cafe, her hands wrapped around a mug she wasn't drinking from. She was telling him a story, half laughing, half confessing, and though the words were small and ordinary, he could feel something shifting inside him. It wasn't attraction. It wasn't even love. It was recognition. That quiet, rare feeling of looking at someone and thinking, "Oh, it's you." Men don't always talk about this, but when they remember, it's not the perfection they hold on to. It's the imperfections that caught them off guard. The crack in her voice when she spoke about her father. The way she would pretend she was fine when she wasn't, but her hands would give her away. The habit she had of staring at the ceiling before answering a hard question, as if searching for courage in the shadows. Those are the things that live in him long after her name has stopped being spoken in his daily life. Long after she's in another city, another man's arms, maybe even another chapter of herself. And here's the part that stings. The man doesn't get to choose which moments will haunt him. He might forget her birthday, but remember the exact shape of her mouth when she was about to cry and didn't want him to see. He might forget the places they went, but remember how she would squeeze his arm lightly when they crossed the street, as if the world was too much and he was the anchor keeping her steady. There's a quiet cruelty in this, because memory is not just a collection, it's a weapon. It can keep someone alive inside you long after they should have faded. It can make you turn your head in a crowd because you thought you saw her, even though you know she's not there. And for the woman in question, she rarely realizes. She thinks he forgot. She thinks he moved on. She believes she's just a chapter in his book, not knowing she's the sentence he keeps rereading at 3 in the morning. This is the secret Jung hinted at, though not in these exact words. A man's memory of a woman is rarely about the obvious. It's not the photographs, not the milestones. It's the fragments. The brush of her sleeve as she walked past him in the kitchen, the way she looked out a train window, and for a heartbeat, seemed unreachable. If you've been that woman, you know what I'm saying. And if you've been that man, you know it even more. There are people we carry, not because we choose to, but because something in them reached into us and refused to let go. So if you're listening now and feeling the echo of someone you once knew, you're exactly where you need to be. Because what we're about to step into is deeper the place where those memories come from and why they're almost impossible to erase. Sometimes, the reason a man remembers a woman forever isn't because of what she gave him, but because of what she awakened in him. A part of himself he didn't know existed until she walked into his life. It might have been the way she challenged him, not in arguments, but in the way she lived. The way she refused to settle for half-truths. The way she looked him straight in the eye when she asked a question and wouldn't let him dodge it. She stirred something raw and restless in him, something that made him want to be more than he was. And that's dangerous, because once someone opens a door inside you, you can't unsee what's behind it. He might have been fine before her, comfortable, unquestioned, but now there's a mark on his life, a line dividing before and after, and she's standing right at the center of it. Maybe he remembers the day she surprised him with silence. She didn't nag, she didn't argue. She just went quiet, and in that quiet, he realized he'd hurt her more than any fight could have. That moment stayed, not because of guilt, but because it showed him what she looked like when she was pulling away. And once a man sees that, he never forgets. Or maybe it was the morning they woke up late, sunlight spilling across the bed. She was half asleep, hair a mess, mumbling something incoherent. He thought about taking a picture, but he didn't because some moments feel too sacred to trap. And now that image is burned into his memory, more vivid than any photograph could be. You see, these aren't grand stories to tell at a wedding or write in a diary. They're quiet truths. They belong to no one else but him. And because of that, they stay sharp. Sometimes, she becomes a mirror he can't throw away. Not because she showed him only the good, but because she also showed him his shadow, the selfishness he didn't want to admit, the fear he tried to hide, the tenderness he didn't know he had, until she coaxed it out of him. And here's where it gets complicated. A man can move on with his life. He can love again, laugh again, build something new. But deep inside, there's a locked drawer he never opens for anyone else. In that drawer is her laugh, her sigh, the way she looked when she thought he wasn't watching. This is why a man might remember a woman forever, not because she was perfect, but because she was real. Because she walked into his life, touched something he didn't know was there, and then whether she left or stayed, she changed him. And once you've been changed like that, there's no going back. There's another truth most people don't admit. Out loud sometimes, a man remembers a woman forever because she was the only one who truly saw him. Not the version he showed the world. Not the confident mask or the charming performance. She saw the cracks, the doubts, the way his hands trembled when he thought no one noticed. She saw the way he avoided certain questions because the answers hurt too much. And instead of turning away, she stayed. That kind of seeing, it brands you. It's one thing to be admired for your strengths. It's another to be accepted for your weaknesses. And when a man experiences that kind of acceptance, he knows he's been given something rare, something almost impossible to replace. He remembers the night she sat with him in silence, letting the weight of his thoughts settle without trying to fix them. The way her presence made the air feel less heavy, the way she reached over and rested her hand on his, and how that small gesture said more than any speech could have. He remembers the way she laughed, not just because it was beautiful, but because it made him laugh too, even on the days he swore he couldn't. He remembers the time she stood up for him when he didn't have the words to defend himself, how she became his voice just for a moment, and how afterward she didn't make it a big deal. She just moved on, as if that's what love was supposed to look like. But here's the cruel part. Sometimes the very person who sees you the most is also the one you can't keep. Life has a way of making love feel like a test you didn't know you were taking until you've already failed. People grow in different directions. Timing doesn't align. Or maybe the things you both carry are too heavy to hold together. Still, he carries her. Not because he's clinging, but because there's a part of him that doesn't want to forget what it felt like to be seen like that. Even if it hurts, even if it makes new love harder. Because in some quiet corner of his mind, he knows if he lets that memory fade, he might also lose the part of himself she uncovered. And maybe that's the real reason he'll remember her forever. Not just because of who she was, but because of who he was with her. There are moments a man carries that even he can't explain, tiny, fleeting seconds that somehow weigh more than years. He might remember her standing in the kitchen in the middle of the night, barefoot, pouring a glass of water, the hum of the refrigerator, the soft scrape of glass against the counter. She didn't even know he was watching, but he felt something in that moment, something that made the world feel unbearably still. Or he remembers the way she once leaned her head against the car window during a long drive, the streetlights passing over her face like slow waves. She was quiet, lost in her own world, and for a heartbeat he was certain he was looking at a version of her no one else would ever see. That's what stays, not the events themselves, but the intimacy of witnessing her when she wasn't performing for anyone. And then there's the memory of their goodbyes. Sometimes it wasn't even the final one that stayed with him, but the almost goodbyes before it. The moments when they hugged a little longer without knowing why. The times her voice caught slightly when she said, "Take care." Those little cracks in the ordinary that hinted something was ending. The truth is, what Jung understood, and what most people avoid admitting, is that love doesn't leave in one clean break. It leaves in layers. And in between those layers are pieces of her he will keep without meaning to. Years later, when life has pulled him somewhere else, when there are new faces, new routines, new laughs filling the space she used to take, there will still be moments when she comes back. Not fully, not as a ghost demanding attention, but as a shadow at the edge of his day, in the scent of rain on warm pavement, in the way someone pronounces a word just like she did, in the sudden, unshakable urge to check a street he hasn't walked in years. It's not longing, not exactly. It's more like a quiet acknowledgement that she mattered, that she still does, that some people are not meant to be forgotten, no matter how much life insists they should be. And maybe that's the real secret, not that a man remembers a woman forever because she was perfect or because she stayed, but because, in a handful of rare moments, she made him feel something he could never unfeel. What he remembers most clearly is rarely the thing she thought would matter. She might have spent hours getting ready for a night out, thinking the image of her in that dress would be the thing etched into his mind. But what he keeps isn't that night at all, it's the morning after, when she was sitting cross-legged on the floor in an old sweatshirt, eating cereal straight from the box, hair wild and eyes half asleep. That's when she looked most unreachable, and yet somehow closest to him. There's something about those unguarded moments. They sneak in through the cracks and take root before either person realizes. She could never plan them, never recreate them if she tried. And maybe that's why they stay, because they were real, untouched by intention. Sometimes he remembers the sound of her voice more than the words she said. The way it softened late at night when she was tired. The way it sharpened when she was passionate about something. How her laugh could pull him back from the edge of his own bad mood without her even noticing. And sometimes, what stays is the way she looked at him when she thought he wasn't watching. He caught it once, a glance across the room. Quick, like she was memorizing him. That look has followed him through years, across cities, through other loves. It's a reminder of a time when someone saw him as worth looking at like that. The cruel beauty of it is that she may never know the things he kept. She might believe he forgot her entirely, that she was just another chapter, that time has erased her. She has no idea there are still mornings when he hears a song in a cafe and it freezes him mid-step, because for a second, she's there again, not in body, but in the kind of presence that slips in quietly and leaves his chest aching. He doesn't talk about it. Most men don't. The world teaches them to file these things away, to be practical, to move forward without glancing back. But the truth is, moving forward and forgetting are not the same thing. And no matter how much life pulls him onward, there's a part of him, small, stubborn, untouchable, that will always keep her. Not because he's still in love with her, not because he can't let go, but because some people leave an imprint you can't wash off without losing part of yourself. And maybe he doesn't want to lose it. There are nights when it hits him without warning. He'll be doing something simple, washing dishes, scrolling through his phone, halfway listening to a song, and suddenly, she's there. Not in a way he can touch or call, but in a way that feels almost physical. The memory slips in quietly, like it's been waiting for him to slow down so it can be heard. Sometimes it's not even her whole face he sees. It might just be her hands, the way she used to gesture when she spoke, or the way she'd curl her fingers into the sleeve of her sweater when she was cold. He remembers how her voice would soften when she was talking to a child, how her laugh would break into two parts. The first a quick spark, the second a softer ripple that only happened when she felt safe. And it's strange. He can't always remember the exact moment they met, but he remembers with perfect clarity the first time he realized she mattered. It wasn't anything grand, just an ordinary afternoon, sunlight catching in her hair, and the sudden, almost frightening awareness that he didn't want to imagine a life without her in it. That awareness scared him. Maybe it scared her too. People often think the moments we keep forever are the dramatic ones, the fights, the confessions, the big romantic gestures, but more often, they're the ones no one else noticed. Like the night she rested her head on his chest, and he realized she was listening to his heartbeat, not because she was romantic, but because she needed the sound to calm her. And here's the thing, time doesn't dull those moments the way you'd think. Sometimes, it sharpens them. Years can pass, lives can change, but certain pieces of her remain vivid, untouched by distance. He could tell you exactly how her hair smelled after the rain. He could tell you the way her voice sounded when she was trying not to cry. He could tell you about the look in her eyes when she was about to say something she might never say again. He doesn't tell anyone these things. He just carries them quietly. Not because he's holding on to her in the hope she'll return, but because those memories are part of him now. They've woven themselves into the fabric of who he is, and removing them would be like removing a piece of his own history. What stays with him most isn't the way she entered his life, but the way she left. Not the exact day, not even the last words, but the weight in the air, the heaviness of two people knowing something is breaking and being powerless to stop it. He remembers the way her smile changed in those final weeks, how it became something she put on like makeup before walking out the door, how her laughter had pauses in it now, spaces where something unsaid was hiding. And maybe the part that stings most is knowing he noticed, but didn't know how to reach her anymore. There wasn't one defining moment when it all fell apart. It was a slow drift, little silences growing longer, hands finding fewer reasons to touch, eyes meeting across a room and then looking away, as if staying there too long might hurt. And yet, in that slow undoing, there were still moments that would stay with him forever. The night she made him tea without asking, setting it down beside him while he was working. She didn't say a word, just left it there. He sipped it after she'd gone to bed, feeling the kind of gratitude that 1,000 thank yous could never explain. That's the strange cruelty of love. It leaves you with these pockets of tenderness that you can't throw away, even when the person who gave them to you is gone. And those pockets, they're what last. Sometimes he wonders if she remembers him in the same way. If there are mornings when a stranger's cologne catches her off guard. If there's a song she skips because it still feels like their song. If she ever thinks about the way his hand would find hers when they crossed a street, without either of them realizing. But he doesn't ask. That's not how this works. Part of remembering someone forever is accepting that most of the remembering will be done alone, without closure, without answers. Just the quiet understanding that some people take root in you, whether you want them to or not. And so he carries her, not in the front of his mind where she might weigh him down, but in the deeper place where the most sacred and unshakable memories live, the place where time cannot touch her, the place where she will always be exactly as she was when he loved her most. There are days when he thinks he's finally moved on. Life has filled itself with new faces, new routines, new responsibilities. He can go weeks without consciously thinking of her, and then, without warning, she appears woven into some small, ordinary moment that has nothing to do with the past. It might be the smell of coffee at a train station, reminding him of the mornings they used to rush together, both late but unwilling to skip that quiet pause before the day began. Or the sound of distant laughter in a crowded street, just sharp enough to carry the same cadence as hers. Or maybe it's the way sunlight spills across a stranger's hair in the exact shade that once rested on his pillow. And when it happens, it's not a flood of grief. Not anymore. It's something softer, a kind of ache that doesn't demand attention, but makes him stop for a moment and breathe differently. Because there she is, not in body, not even in thought, but in the echo of who they were. What he has learned is that love doesn't always end like a fire burning out. Sometimes it ends like a candle you forget to blow out, still flickering quietly in a room you rarely enter. You can live your life without seeing it, but it's still there, casting a small, steady light. And if he's honest, he's glad for it. Because even though she is no longer part of his present, she is part of the foundation he stands on. She shaped how he listens, how he touches, how he speaks when he wants someone to feel safe. She taught him, without ever trying to teach, that the most unforgettable people are the ones who make you feel entirely yourself. So he doesn't try to erase her. He doesn't lock the memories away. Instead, he lets them sit in that quiet place inside him, like well-worn pages of a book he knows by heart. He doesn't need to read them every day. But he knows, if life ever leaves him searching for meaning again, he can turn back to those pages and remember how it felt to be known, how it felt to be seen. And maybe that's the truest thing of all. A man remembers a woman forever when, in her presence, he met the most honest version of himself. There's a part of him that wonders if she knows, if she's walking through her own life somewhere, unaware that she still lives in someone else's. Maybe she thinks she was forgotten. Maybe she tells herself the story that it was just another love, one among many, fading the way all things do. But she would be wrong, because he still remembers the way she would lean against the doorframe when she was tired, watching him without saying a word. The way she used to hum absent-mindedly when she was concentrating. The way her eyes would search his face, like she was looking for something she wasn't sure she wanted to find. It's strange he's not holding on in the way people think. He doesn't replay old conversations every night. He doesn't stalk her life from a distance. It's not obsession, it's preservation. She's simply there, like a song that plays softly in the background of his days. And he's realized something over the years. What he remembers isn't just her, it's who he became in those moments with her. The parts of himself that only existed because she drew them out. She taught him to listen without interrupting, to notice the small shifts in someone's tone, to love in a way that was quiet but steady, without needing to announce itself. Even now, when the world feels heavy, he'll sometimes catch himself using the exact words she once used to comfort him. It slips out naturally, like it's become part of his language. She lives there, in those phrases, in those softened edges of him. And maybe this is what Jung meant all along, that the people who leave the deepest marks on us aren't the ones who are loud about their love, but the ones who change our way of being without us realizing it. The ones who touch our lives so deeply that even when they're gone, their fingerprints remain. He will live whole decades without her, but she will still be there in the way he pauses before answering, in the way he notices when someone's hands are trembling, in the way he gives silence when silence is needed. She's not just a memory. She's a thread woven into the fabric of who he is. And some threads you never pull loose. He sometimes wonders if that's why forgetting feels impossible, because it's not really about memory at all. It's about identity. If he were to let go of her completely, he'd have to let go of the parts of himself that were born in her presence. The patience. The way he learned to look someone in the eye when they were speaking, not because it was polite, but because it made them feel heard. The way he learned to soften his voice when someone was hurting, even if they never said the words. She is stitched into the small, quiet ways he moves through the world. And so forgetting her would be like trying to unlearn a language he now speaks without thinking. That's why, even when new love finds him, it doesn't erase her. It never could. New love builds something different, something fresh and real in its own right. But it doesn't rewrite the past. It doesn't take away the truth that she was there, that she mattered, that she shaped him. Sometimes, in rare moments, he almost wishes he could thank her. Not for the love, not even for the memories, but for the unseen changes, the ones that made him gentler, truer, more present. But those kinds of thanks rarely find their way to the person who deserves them. They stay tucked inside, whispered in the mind on quiet nights, never spoken aloud. And in those moments, he realizes he doesn't actually need her to know. The truth of her impact lives whether she's aware of it or not. That's the real secret. Some people leave you with gifts they'll never realize they gave. So he keeps her where she's always been, in that private, sacred place, just beneath the surface. Not to dwell, not to ache, but to honor the fact that some connections are so profound, they stop being part of your story and start being part of your soul. And once someone is part of your soul, there is no forgetting. There are rare evenings when the weight of it all comes back heavier than usual, not in a way that knocks him down, but in a way that makes him quieter, slower, more still. He'll be sitting outside as the sun drops, watching the light fade in that patient, unhurried way the sky has. And for reasons he can't explain, she'll come to mind not as a sharp ache, but as a steady warmth, almost like a candle burning in another room, unseen but felt. He'll remember how she used to listen, not just to his words, but to the pauses between them. How she would lean in slightly, her eyes soft but alert, making him feel like whatever he was saying mattered more than it probably did. That kind of listening changes a man. It teaches him to value his own voice, but also to offer that same attention to others. He'll remember the fights too, not because of the hurt, but because of what they revealed. The way she would cross her arms but still stay in the room. The way her voice would shake when she cared too much to be calm. Even in conflict, she was present. And that, in its own way, was love. Over the years, people will come and go. Faces will blur. Voices will fade. But hers stays sharp in certain places. The exact sound of her saying his name when she was happy. The weight of her hand on his chest as she fell asleep. The particular kind of quiet that existed between them, the one that didn't feel empty. It's not that he wants to go back. He knows life doesn't work that way. It's that some experiences become part of your foundation, and she is one of them. He could build whole lifetimes on top of it, but it will always be there, holding the weight. So when people ask him if he's ever had a love he'll never forget, he doesn't give the full truth. He just smiles a little, the way you do when the answer is too big for words, and says, yes. And deep down, he knows what a man remembers forever about a woman isn't bound by time, distance, or even the ending. It's bound by the way she reached into him, touched the part he never showed anyone, and left her fingerprint there.